Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for joining the news review right here on the AM show. And boy, are we glad to give you Liz Hayford-Asari, media consultant, who joins the conversation. Good morning, Liz. I think you would have to unmute.
Good morning, and how are you?
I'm well. I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm blessed.
Great to hear that you are blessed. And it's been another week. It's been a full week since we last had an interaction. I would ask you in between, based on, what we see as far as our economy is concerned, the exchange rate and all of that. We'll be talking about these as we dig into the papers. But what has life been like for you over the course of the last week? The last time I went to the pumps was yesterday, and it cost me a pretty penny. Not that much has changed, but each time you go, it feels as though you had received a slap on both cheeks. That's my experience. I don't know about you, but what has it been like over the course of the last week?
It's the same. It's the same at the pump as it is in the market. If you go to the market to buy stuff and you bought it at a certain price yesterday, be sure that today when you go, the price is different. And that is how bad it is. I used to send to the market before, but now I have to go myself, because now you have to be, you can't just write a list and think that you get everything on that list. And you can't think that those people who are doing you a favor by doing your marketing are cheating you. You need to go to the market to see it for yourself. So for me, that is at the fore. And yesterday somebody said something that got me in stitches. He says, "Oh, you're not losing weight intentionally. You're losing weight because of the system we are in now." Yeah, I mean, so that's why you're losing weight. If you were eating 3 times a day, maybe you've cut it down to 2 or 1, and because that is what your pocket can afford. And that's why you're losing weight, and I better start laughing. But for some people, that is very true. I mean, they can't even have 3 square meals, not even 2. People complain. Some fathers and mothers have had to give up eating probably for their children to have a good meal or something like that. And the system is terrible. It will get better, though.
I guess with time, it ought to get better, because this squeeze on the economy, this squeeze on our pockets cannot possibly last forever. It would be really difficult to, take something of the sort. But let's get into the papers this morning. We start with the Daily Dispatch newspaper. It says, continuing voter registration for 2024 elections. I am against the Guarantor system and only Ghana card usage. That's according to Ben Ephson. It's on the back page of his own paper, the paper he edits. But US to get its version of unique digital ID card soon. These are interesting sometimes when I see these stories, because the UK, the US, they already have these systems in different forms. But I'll be going into that story just to get what further detail this one gives. Kenyans brace for crucial elections today. Will it be Odinga or Ruto? Some are rooting for Ruto, and some say it is Odinga's time. Raila Odinga. But how will things pan out? How will the cookie crumble? Only time will tell. I almost broke the 8 in 2008. I lost the elections by 23,000 votes, by a whisker, basically. Akufo-Addo has been talking in that latest discourse on a radio station. But let's get into some of the stories in the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Page 11 is where I'm going to start from. And it says, so let me get to that story. It's supposed to be on page 11. The US to get its version of a unique digital ID card soon. Let's see where that story possibly could have gone to. Okay, let's check. So this is something that the newspapers tend to do to us. it's called matricule. They tell you it's on page this, and then before you realize, it's actually on page 2 of that newspaper. So, United States getting its own version of Ghana Card as digital ID bill sees action in the House and Senate. A bill from Representative Republican Bill Foster, that is a Democrat. So he's Representative Bill Foster, Democrat for Illinois, and its Senate companion would raise the federal government's profile in the digital ID ecosystem. A bill meant to ramp up federal government participation in the digital identity ecosystem is inching closer to passage. Now, the bill is poised to be advanced by the House Committee on Oversight and Reform, and a Senate version was just introduced. The bipartisan bill was first introduced by Representative Bill Foster in 2020, but never voted out of committee. It also didn't get a Senate version in that session of Congress. Foster reintroduced the measure last year. Now, just to look at some deliverables of the bill, and we shall wrap it there. The bill includes a few deliverables, but the main impact will likely be felt from its proposed policy shift that puts the federal government more squarely in the digital ID business. This all comes in the midst of a government still grappling with increased identity fraud since the start of the pandemic. Identity fraud losses shot up from $16.9 billion in 2019 to $56 billion in 2020, according to Javelin Strategy and Research. So this is a move there technically to prevent the work of hackers, like has been mentioned, identity theft, among others. But my only question with this story is that it creates the picture as though the U.S. were now getting an identity system, which is not the case. They've always had that. They've been eons ahead of us. So let's not paint that picture. That is my only problem. But your quick thoughts on that, Liz? Yes,
and I think that the identity cards they had were being issued, I think, state by state.
Yep.
And so you had the identity card, but it showed which state you were coming from.
Exactly.
And so if they're doing it federal, it's because, like they have said, identity fraud, hackers, theft, So they're just trying to marry the systems so that instead of it being state, it is federal, so it is for the whole of the U.S.
Exactly.
And it covers everybody. And so, like you said, it's just a step, it's just a grade higher, if you ask me. So it doesn't matter which state you really belong to, you're in the U.S., and therefore there are particular things on the card that will probably just single out your identity and nobody can take it from you.
Well, we can also check out this story before I do the one representing the thoughts of Ben Ephson on page 5 today of the Daily Dispatch newspaper of fuel-less ambulances and fuel-full V8s, of fuel-less ambulances and fuel-full V8s. It's from Eric's diary, and Eric Mensah Ayete works with the multimedia group. I am very pleased to say that. He has this wonderful piece on page 5. It's continued from yesterday that you can check out. But he talks about how, while most of the secondary and tertiary audience of my message clapped loudly for my input, my primary target, Professor Ahmed Nuhu Zakaria, looked at me coolly. Of course, he's referring to the boss of the National Ambulance Service. After the applause died down, he raised his hand with his forefinger at the fore. When the chairman signaled him to proceed, he, in his characteristic public servant diplomatic fashion, said, "Thank you very much for the brilliant suggestion. But my reaction will be that since we are just about to start, we cannot do that, because if we advertise and the people call for our services in their numbers and we can't meet it, what happens?" So you can check out more details. It's very interesting. But it brings to mind, Liz, all this talk about people who are in emergency situations having to fuel ambulances, and how bad, egregious that is. Emergency situation in other jurisdictions, in a few minutes you get help. Here it can take hours, and we see people die, like we saw recently, that pregnant woman who lost her life. And of course, the comparative, what he places side by side with this. 600 cedis called for fuel, in some instances, maybe more. and you have these V8s that park, and even while parked, their engines are still on and they are burning fuel. So it creates a clear dichotomy where our priorities lie as a people. Maybe your quick reflection on that before we do Ben Ephson's thinking.
It is a very sad situation, if you ask me. And having been a Red Crosser, it's painful to see people that can be saved lose their lives. If you're talking about fueling the ambulances, it's not just the fuel, even the equipment to offer first aid the moment you put the victim on board. Sometimes it's not readily available. And to think that, like you're saying, the VA standing somewhere waiting for the bus because his car should be cool by the time he sits in, it's very sad and it's very disheartening. Where are priorities? I mean, it's if these people who are driving in the V8s are supposed to be serving us, and yet they're leaving us to die, then there is a question mark, a big question mark. And if you're talking about ambulances and the victim having to fuel the ambulance, what if I am passing and I see somebody in distress and I call for an ambulance? Do I have to fuel the ambulance even when I don't know the person who's in distress and I'm only trying to help? You know, so there are a lot of things that are going on that are not right. And why should an ambulance be sitting without fuel when you don't know when an emergency call will come in? These are questions that beg answers. And again, who is running the National Ambulance Service and who is financing the service they're providing?
As for the financing, what they ought to get, they're definitely not getting. And they tell you about their fuel allocations, for example, and how they have to spread that across the entirety of the country, which means that, if I'm not mistaken, is it about 1,000 or 2,000 cedis per month? And their focus usually is those who have been involved in accidents, road accidents. So sometimes when you come with other issues, we have an emergency for a pregnant person, maybe someone has had some sort of injury, then you just might have to cough up some money. While you are in no position to do anything, family members or you yourself might have to cough up some money just so you can get emergency care at the next available hospital facility. That is if you even get a bed, because there's also no bed syndrome that could meet you, even in the case of an emergency. So those are the dynamics list to this. When you look at the picture
you're painting a picture for the elite. I mean, because not everybody has that amount of money at home to be able to fuel an ambulance 600 cedis.
Exactly.
People can't even have one meal a day. So if they call you and there's a call of distress, and you're now waiting to get money, then you probably just say, let the person die. But is that what we want to do as a people?
And we also ought to look, Liz, so the point is, it is illegal for the ambulance service to require that anybody pay for these services. It is illegal, but they've also explained that this is what it has come down to. It is illegal, but this is what it has come down to. And I do not know whether even today, as we speak, it's still not happening. While it is an illegality.
Again, the question is that who is the National Ambulance Service under? Which organization is
Professor
it under?
Zachariah.
And why are we not raising riot about the services that we are supposed to be receiving? Because if the nation is supposed to be giving them the monies to be able to run efficiently, that's what we should be doing. And we should stop hiding our heads in the sand and pretending that the problems that are there are not there. They are there. People are suffering. So let's do things right. I believe that this is a conversation that must be had if we want to ensure that there's proper health service in the system. Everybody who is providing health service and needs the finances to do so should get what they need, because it is our lives that matter.
Right. Let's take a quick look at this and say goodbye to the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Continuing voter registration for 2024 elections, I am against the Guarantor system and only Ghana card usage. Ben Ephson says so. And He has advised the Electoral Commission to find common ground for the voter registration exercise it intends to embark on. Mr. Ephson, his call comes on the background of the former Electoral Commissioner, Dr. Kwejo Afarijan, calling on the EC not to use the Ghana card as the only form of identity to get people registered as voters. Take note, only form. They are not saying it can't be used, but only form. According to the former EC boss, the move by the EC will disenfranchise millions of Ghanaian voters. Now, speaking to the paper's political desk yesterday, Ephson said, quote, "As you speak to me now, not all Ghanaians have the Ghana card, and there is no guarantee that should we make it a law that only the Ghana card can be a form of identification, all eligible Ghanaians would have it." On the Guarantor system, Ephson said, quote, "I think that system has been abused. Take a scenario of a non-Ghanaian who lives in a community and always attends rallies of Party A. When the occasion for continuing voter registration comes up, you will get a situation where supporters of Party A will lie and vouch that he is a Ghanaian to be registered as a voter." So these are some of the gray areas, problematic areas that we ought to be looking at. But for you, Liz, what do you see when it comes to this entire bit of Ghana card, vote, no Ghana card, no vote, at least for the continuing registration of voters?
We don't want to disenfranchise anybody. And so if you look at the rolling out of the Ghana card and the rate at which it is going, currently, they've not been able to roll out to those who are eligible for. And so the question then is, when it comes to those who are 18, what happens? We probably should be looking at a system where even at birth, if you get a Ghana card, by the time you're 18, the system upgrades itself. But we don't have that. We don't have that. And we have a lot of people who do not have the Ghana card who are not even pushing to get the Ghana card because it's cumbersome getting the Ghana card. If you go to the rural areas, they'll tell you that, oh, I can't leave my farm and go and wait for hours on end to get a Ghana card. And I've talked to quite a number of people who are outside of the main city. And they feel that, well, I've lived my life all this time and nothing has happened. Maybe when it comes to voting, they would think that it is important because now there's a system that's trying to make it only the Ghana card. But I don't see it happening overnight. It's a gradual process. And I agree that we shouldn't use only the Ghana card. I have wondered how you can say that somebody has a passport and the person is not a Ghanaian. Because when you look at the requirements to get a passport, your birth certificate and all that, then the passport should be credible. Unless they're giving passports, they themselves are giving passports, or we ourselves are giving passports to non-Ghanaians, then we would have a question. So I think that we should be particular. And when you talk about non-guarantors, then it is a worry for me. Non-guarantors because we have abused the system. But what if the guarantors are your parents and they're Ghanaians and they have a voter's ID and they have a Ghana card, they have a voter's ID and they have a passport? Are you saying that they can't vouch for their child, their nephew, a relative that they've lived with all their lives? I mean, I don't know what to think, but I think that there are questions that should be taken into consideration. And if we're doing something, we need to do it properly.
Right.
And we need to be on the same page as a people. I mean, if it's only Ghana card, what happens to those who have not received Ghana cards yet, or those who would not have received their Ghana cards in 2024? Does that mean that we are disenfranchising them?
Those who are turning 18. Tied to that, in the Daily Guide newspaper, Mahama Ayariga supports EC to use Ghana card for voting. But is that caption is exactly correct? Because when you read, you would find out that there are questions raised. So let's get into it. Mahama Ayariga, of course, is Member of Parliament for Boku Central. and he has thrown his weight behind the decision by the EC to adopt the Ghana card as the sole identification document for voter registration ahead of the 2024 elections. But the question is that exactly what happened? So even in the story, it says, Mr. Ayariga indicated using the Ghana card to vote will be more prudent. He pointed out that, quote, the law doesn't say we cannot change it, that is the card used to vote. Now, we're talking about the voter's ID card. We can change it to say if you have a Ghana card, the Electoral Commission should recognize that for the purposes of voting, because the same information that you are going to give to get a Ghana card is the same information that the Electoral Commission would be asking for. As we speak, I personally don't have a problem with saying if you have a Ghana card, just go to the polling station and show it to the EC and vote. So what he's basically saying here is we can use an interlocking system, not necessarily saying that you have to use the Ghana card. But in essence, even on voting day, if you have the Ghana card, which takes your biometrics and all other details, and you have the voter's ID, which does same, people should be allowed. But he makes some interesting points in addition. This is on page 6. Why should I struggle to get a Ghana card and after that go and struggle to get a voter ID card? That brings to question the issue of duplication or replication of cards. So you have to get this card, you pick my biometrics. SNIT card, you pick my biometrics. That card, you pick my biometrics. So he's talking about ease. And then he says, they cannot insist that I must get a Ghana card before I come and get a voter identity card. I don't think that is constitutionally right. So I feel that sometimes, yes, the captioning of the story, but the essence of what he said, there's a bit of a divergence. Your quick thoughts. So I mean, that adds to the conversation. Different aspects we can look at. For me, I will say, as we integrate everybody into the system, fair is fair. But don't create a system where some people are on the fringes, are not integrated, and you want to use that system. You'll end up disenfranchising people, and that can only destabilize the country. So let's do the right thing. Only when you've got a system where everybody is involved, and maybe the only person who isn't there is the person who has refused to be there, then you can get into some of this. I don't know what your thoughts are quickly on that.
My thoughts are same. I believe that everybody has a right to vote. If I go to vote, it is my choice to go to vote. But you don't disenfranchise me by saying that you need this to be able to vote. And like he's saying, and I question all the time because it's a lot of money in producing cards and going through all the systems all the time, because we need to streamline what we want as a people. So if in the future we decide that it's only the Ghana card that you need to vote with, make sure that the system is such that everybody by the time we're ready to vote has a Ghana card. If people do not have the Ghana card, you can't disenfranchise them because they have voter ID cards. And so we should look at the system very well, and we should hasten slowly. It is a process. It is not an event. Getting a card and using it in an instance, because over the years we have not gotten everything on one card the way we are doing now.
Right.
And we have not, even in the past, we have not incorporated everybody the way we have to. And so it's still a process, and it will be gradual. We can't hurry it. So let's take our time and do it properly.
Right. And
look at the medium-term probably deadline. Say that by 2025, 2026, whatever, everybody would have a Ghana card. And so if a child is born today, the person, when he's registered, gets a card. You know, so as the person is growing, then you're upgrading the card as the person goes. And if we have that kind of system, then we won't be complaining. But as it is now, I don't see it being feasible that only the Ghana card can be used for voters' ID.
Let's wrap with a few stories, Liz. So from the Daily Guide, I'll add these two. No reshuffle. That's according to President Akufo-Addo. And he has said, just in summary, that he's not going to have any reshuffle. No one is going to force his hand. And that, guess what? It is an attempt by the NDC to destabilize the system by getting him to move around his ministers. And there's also the story of government strongly criticizing Standard & Poor's for its decision to downgrade Ghana's economy. You know, there's been a recent downgrade from B- to CCC+ with a negative outlook. My interest there, my curiosity there has to do with the fact that when it inures to any government's benefit, whether the NDC or the MPP, they embrace it and say, yes, this is a reflection of, you know, the true state of the economy. But when it goes against what they want, then it is, nah, they are not getting it right. And they should have, you know, looking at the measures we've put in place, they should have considered those and all of that. Interesting times. And maybe you can just add this story. ECG identifies more than 1,000 illegal connections in Legon district. That's how we'll end the conversation. These three. So no reshuffle, the criticism of Standard & Poor's, and illegal connections list.
With a reshuffle, well, it is the president's prerogative, but I wonder if it's only because the NDC is calling for a reshuffle that he's refusing to budge, because I believe that there should be a system that should, I'm trying to choose the right words, but a system that should be able to tell you the ministers who are doing well and the ministers who are not doing well. And you should be able to tell from the tempo of the people, the ministers that they appreciate and the ministers that they don't appreciate. And I don't think it's just an NDC thing. Looking at it across board, I think that there are some ministers that you hardly hear of but are working hard. There are others that you hear of all the time but are doing practically nothing. The systems that we are in, if you take ministry by ministry, are we getting above 80% efficiency? If we are not, then why are you keeping the person there? So I believe that there should be a system by which the ministers are graded to see if they're really making an impact or not. But it's the president's prerogative. They are his representatives. So if he's satisfied with what they're doing, so be it. If he thinks that he won't listen to the people's call, that's his choice.
Right.
And I think I'll leave it there. It's his choice. So, well, only he knows the reasons why he won't listen to anybody and he won't reshuffle. Maybe he thinks that his ministers are doing fantastically well, so they remain in position. SMP. The downgrade. Actually, I think that the downgrade has a lot more to do with us being able to service our loans and bring ourselves up from the doldrums. And in the near future, it doesn't look that bright. We have loads of loans that we have taken. We are borrowing to pay loans. And unfortunately, we are not investing enough into our productive sectors that would help us come out of the doldrums as an economy. In the near future, I don't see us rising as high as we want to. It will get better with time if we pay attention to the proper areas, if we put our priorities right.
Right.
There's a lot of infrastructural development going on, but still, our imports are very high, and it takes a lot of money to do those imports. And that is what is costing us so much. We've moved away from paying attention to what we produce. And so our production levels are very low. Everything is imported. I mean, you want to go get stuff and you realize that what is in Ghana or what is produced in Ghana hardly gets patronized.
And that really brings to mind a recent list by Steve Manteau concerning some of the things Ghana should be doing to resuscitate our economy. But this is where we're going to hang it all up. Thank you so much, Liz, for joining the
Thank
conversation.
you.
Very colorful outfit this morning. How do you do it? You always do something. I think I'll reach you off air and find out what your secret is, so I can also tap into it.
Okay.
But do have a wonderful day, Liz.
Thank you also. Bless you.
Great. Time now for us to head right into sports. And definitely one thing we're going to be talking about, Ashanti Gold in the Ghana Premier League and its replacement. We'll be telling you about Tamale City and more. Muftau Nabila Abdullahi up next with sports.